The gulls of Dragonstone wheeled in pale morning light, their cries thin against the vast hush of the sea. A fine salt mist drifted over cracked black stone, softening the scoured ramparts that still bore the scorch marks of 3 young dragons roosting there all summer. Jaime Lannister stood alone upon the battlements, one hand braced on the damp merlon, the other, his golden prosthesis, hanging heavy at his side. He drew a slow breath, tasted brine and distant smoke, and wondered whether the wind carried ash all the way from King's Landing, or whether the memory of it simply refused to loosen its claws from his throat. Behind him, the castle murmured awake. The clatter of hooves in the yard, the hiss of hot iron as unsullied smiths tested spear points, the low drone of Valerian in the mouths of Dothraki riders who had never known winter. None of them looked at him with open hatred now. Curiosity, perhaps, the occasional sideways glance lingering on the lion's sigil still sewn, faded and fraying, above his heart. Hatred had been a simpler thing, back when he'd arrived bleeding and half-mad from days on the narrow sea, clutching the note Tyrion had left for Daenerys before his flight north. But time eroded clean edges, even in a fortress of razor stone. He traced a thumb across the chill basalt, remembering the cloying heat in the throne room when Cersei had refused her armies to the realm. A woman of wildfire and secrets, she had stood upon that polished floor like a pillar of flame. His twin, his queen, his love, and he had turned his back on her. A single footprint in wet mud outside the Red Keep had sealed it, one shape twin to his own but pointing another way entirely. He did not know whether the print had truly been Tyrion's, though in the hollow of his heart he liked to think so. Something small and stubborn, pressed into the earth, daring him to choose the path that felt impossible. War horns boomed across the inner ward. Jaime lifted his gaze. Below, the Unsullied formed 2 lines at the gates, spears angled skyward. Between them strode Daenerys Stormborn. She moved as if the courtyard were a reflection cast for her alone. Every step precise, measured yet unhurried, a dancer's poise clad in riding leathers white as fresh milk and trimmed in crimson thread. Her hair, pale as frost, was braided in the Targaryen fashion, 3 ropes of silver bound by golden rings. At her shoulder padded a black and red adolescent dragon, no larger than a destrier yet thrumming with silent promise of fire. The creature's eyes fixed on Jaime. He felt the weight of them, Vernashot, as keen as any blade. He did not flinch. Instead, he inclined his head, part salute, part apology, part challenge to whatever god still watched him, to stand his ground though the battlements quivered with sudden fear. Daenerys halted in the courtyard's center, gaze flicking across her soldiers, her chin lifted. When she spoke, her voice carried like hammered bronze. "My hand joins me in the war council at once." Words simple, yet they rippled through the ranks. Jaime stepped from the shadowed parapet into full dawn, letting the roiling clouds and sea spray witness his oath. He descended narrow stairs, boots clicking upon stone polished by dragon talons, centuries dead. Each stride scraped nerve against memory. The Kingsguard white cloak had once worn, the vows betrayed, the king he had slain, the wildfire he had smelled on Aerys' breath, as he thrust steel through mad flesh. Yet, here he walked again toward a throne of dragons. This time, no sword in hand, only quills and counsel. It felt like penance. It felt like doom. It felt, to his surprise, like hope. Inside the council chamber, torches guttered though morning light leaked through thin slits in the walls, staining the table's carved obsidian with streaks of gray. Nisande unrolled fresh maps. Gray worms stood guard by the door, expression carved of stone, his quiet breathing the chamber's calm heart. Varys, robed in weightless silks, perched near a brazier as if it held secrets meant for his ears alone. He offered Jaime a nod, neither curious nor welcoming, simply acknowledging. A spider recognizing another creature adept at woven webs. Daenerys took the high seat. No iron, no blades, merely a risen platform of volcanic glass carved with 3 swirling dragons. She beckoned Jaime forward. "Sir Jaime," she began, tasting the title as though uncertain whether it still belonged to him. The reports from the Reach? He placed parchment upon the table, every letter penned in his own hand the night before. High Garden holds, your grace. They do not open their gates to Cersei's banners, nor to ours. Lady Olenna's death has left a thorny void. Without clear rule, the bannermen bicker. It can be turned to our advantage, but cautiously. Messindine. Daenerys' violet eyes studied him. And the Lords of the Reach, will they follow a Lannister lion? The question cut deeper than steel. Jaime did not shy away. I would not ask them to follow me. I ask them to see the realm beyond house lines. You have the dragons. I have the ear of soldiers who marched beside me in the Gold Road burning. They know what dragonfire means. They know you could reduce every hall from Old Oak to Brightwater to rubble. If you offer mercy, they may grasp it. A hush settled. In that hush, Jaime heard Tyrion's laughter from another life. Dwarf's laughter, half rueful, half triumphant, the sound of knowing the truth others missed. Jaime missed that laugh more than he missed the weight of a real right hand. He forced himself to silence. Dragonfire radiated behind his shoulder. The young drake had flapped onto a windowsill, claws scoring the sill to shards. Its wings rustled like banners in storm. Daenerys tilted her head, braids spilling like silver snakes. Mercy, you say? You advise softness from my dragons. I advise strength tempered by purpose, Jaime answered. If you burn fields as Cersei accuses, they kneel only from fear. Fear births rebellion when flames dim. Offer justice in place of terror, and they may kneel from belief. Varys' lips curved as though into the memory of a whisper. Missandei's quill paused before resuming. Grey Worm's dark gaze flicked between queen and hand, measuring. Daenerys leaned back. My brother's counsel would not sound so different, she murmured. Yet he wrote to me that your insight in battle was unmatched. She tapped a finger on the parchment. You broke our line at the Blackwater. Jaime felt heat flush his neck, and lost everything that mattered doing so, save a lie of love. I would not repeat those sins. He met her stare, felt its blaze banked by curiosity rather than scorn. Give me the Reach, your grace. Let me ride with a token force, unsullied enough to show your trust, not enough to breed dread. Grant me the words to remind them of old vows to the crown before Baratheon stags or rose thorns confused the matter. And what words are those? He smiled, thin, more scar than grin. That winter is here, and fire may yet save them from ice. White Walkers, Varys sighed, ever uneasy to utter fear's truest name. Ravens whisper they march still, though the wall stands. Walls fall, Jaime said. I have seen taller keeps tumble beneath wildfire. His memory flashed. Green flames licking through blackened gatehouses. King Aerys's voice shrieking. He forced away the stench. Daenerys rose. You shall have 20 unsullied and 2 warships. Go to the Reach. Speak in my name. Return before the moon's turn. She extended her hand. Jaime knelt, resting his golden prosthesis atop his living palm as he bowed to press chapped lips to her cool fingers. He felt the dragon's heat swirl the chamber air behind him, yet Daenerys' skin was winter calm. She withdrew. Rise, my hand, she said. The realm awaits your silver tongue. He stood, meeting her eyes. In them, he saw no madness, no flicker of Aerys's hungry fire, only the steady glow of a storm lantern guiding sailors through black seas. Yet, lanterns, like crowns, could break if winds raged high enough. That afternoon, Jaime walked the beach where tidewaters hissed through ragged vents in the pumice. Ghost crabs hurried sideways between shards of obsidian. Up the strand, anchor chains groaned as crews readied the warships. Sleek hulls painted crimson and gold, the Queen's colors mirrored in scaled patterns along the prow. The high tide and the Fury's kiss, names gilded into oak. He paced toward them while sunlight flared across wet sand like molten coin. Footsteps crunched behind him. Brienne's shadow stretched tall on rippling foam. You chase glory, she called. Anger and worry twined. Again. He turned. Brienne wore half-plate emblazoned with the sapphire sigil of Tarth. her helm tucked beneath one sinewy arm. Her blonde hair blew untamed across her brow. A banner more honest than any painted cloth. Not glory, Jaime said. Redemption, if such a thing exists. It does, but seldom on the tip of a spear. She stepped closer, voice softening. Every raven from King's Landing speaks of executions. Cersei strings her enemies up on the Red Keep walls. Lords vanish overnight. Small folk vanish underfoot. If you go west, she will know. He shrugged. She likely knows already. Qyburn's little birds make certain. He watched gulls sail high above where cliffs met sky. Would you have me cower in some corner of this castle, nursing what remains of my honor? I would have you live. Brienne's jaw tightened. When you swore to Lady Catelyn, you promised the Stark girl's safety, not this Queen's war. Jaime's breath hitched. Sansa sits in Winterfell under Jon Snow's protection, Arya. 7, save us, rides shadows. My oath stands, but they do not require me now. He spread hands. One flesh, one gleaming metal. Daenerys may. If the realm is to survive, she must win hearts as well as battles. Hearts shaped of fear cannot hold. Brienne searched his face. You believe her worthy? I believe she wishes to be. He hesitated. I believe she listens. Brienne closed her eyes as surf sighed between them. When she opened them, something gentle lingered. Then go. Speak truth. But remember, honor served in silence is still honor. If ever you must choose between serving her and serving what is right, I will choose what is right, he finished, though the words scraped rod. I have made that choice before. She nodded. They shared a moment. Salt wind tugging cloaks. Jaime wanted to reach for her, but gauntlet and gold limb hung useless. Small gestures lost to old wounds. Instead he bowed his head, a knight acknowledging a knight. Brienne touched his shoulder. Steady, warm, commendation and farewell in one press. Then she strode back toward the castle, blue cloak snapping. Jaime watched her until the mist swallowed her outline, then turned to the ships. Sailors loaded barrels of dried fish, kegs of sweet water, bundles of spears. 20 unsullied, faces impassive as death, marched up gangplanks. Their captain saluted Jaime with spear reversed, acknowledging command. Jaime answered with a nod, wrestling down a surge of unease. War blood within him thrummed, hungry for the rhythm of oar and shield. But war no longer defined him. He was the Queen's hand, sworn to words before steel. He only hoped words could still bend men the way steel did. At sunset, the ships loosed moorings and slid from the volcanic cradle of Blackwater Bay. Dragonstone's cliffs receded, jagged silhouettes against crimson sky. Jaime stood at the prow, cloak whipping about his knees, and watched the castle shrink like a coal fading in a hearth. Within those walls, a silver queen prepared to claim a continent. He felt the tether of duty stretch across the churning sea, thin yet unbroken. A gull alighted on the railing beside his golden hand, tilting its head with bold curiosity. Jaime lifted the shining fingers. The bird pecked once, testing. Metal rang hollow, and it took wing, shrieking into dusk. He almost laughed. Even the beasts of sea and shore could not decide what to make of him. Knight, Kingslayer, cripple, hand. Perhaps that was his blessing. To be less certain now, to allow doubt its rightful place. Doubt, he'd learned, could carve a path toward truth where certainty built walls of corpses. Night fell swiftly over open water. The moon climbed, half hidden behind ghost clouds. Jaime retired below decks, though rest eluded him. He spread maps across the captain's table in a cramped cabin, lit by a swaying lantern. Each mark of ink told a story. Troop positions, harvest yields, house sigils. He ran fingertips across the reach. Those gentle green plains he had once raced through at tourneys, roses flying, cheers ringing. Now they lay fallow, conscripts dying far from home, loyalties twisted, a realm at war with itself, and he, a Lannister, tasked to mend it. He thought of Cersei. In memory her eyes glimmered like beaten gold, but the memory had soured into brass. Cersei would not yield. Her love lived as wildfire. Burn all or be nothing. She had set the city aflame once already, though only Jaime and perhaps a few terrified Septons grasped how close doom had lurked again. He had overheard rumors of caches Qyburn stocked beneath the city, vials of green sealed and guarded. Fear prickled his spine. If Daenerys came with dragons, wildfire would greet dragonfire, and the realm would perish in a pyre of madness. Sleep claimed him eventually, a fitful fog where ghosts whispered. He dreamed of Brienne kneeling amid snowdrifts tinged scarlet, Oathkeeper broken at her feet. He dreamed of Tyrion, face lost in shadow, holding a lantern that guttered each time Jaime reached for it. He dreamed of Daenerys standing before the Iron Throne melted into slag, her eyes not violet but an empty mirror that reflected his own weary face. He woke before dawn, heart hammering. The cabin smelled of tar and salt and men's close breath. Above, footsteps thudded as sailors trimmed sail. Jaime doused his face at a pitcher, shivering at the chill. He strapped sword to hip, habit more than need, and climbed to deck. Ray dawn painted the sea pewter, but on the horizon westward rose a blur of green-gray. Land, not yet the Reach, but the islands of the Shield, sparsely settled, battered by storms that roared unchecked from the sunset sea. The ships would skirt them, avoiding hidden reefs. A rider approached. Jorek, first spear among the Unsullied assigned to him. The soldier's shaven head shone in weak light. Krasen uth kuliuan reash, Serhand, he said in clipped common tongue. Storm reaches. Jaime scanned the bow. Wind whipped harder now, tearing white-capped waves. We hold course, he said, trusting the captain's charts. Tell the men to lash everything below. Jorek saluted and moved with silent economy. A reed bending to command. The storm arrived by midday. Clouds black as ravens' wings blotted the sky. Rain slashed sideways. Deck timbers groaned. The Fury's kiss took the brunt, masts creaking. But the crews were Valyrians bred on tempest, rope and sail dancing in their hands. Jaime tied himself to a spar and felt sea spray sting eyes already red from sleeplessness. Thunder crackled overhead like artillery. He tasted copper on his tongue and realized he was laughing, ragged, thrilled laughter. Because in that chaos no banner mattered, no throne, no name. Only man and sea and fate's fickle interest. By nightfall, the storm limped east, spent. Stars emerged, shivering in puddles on deck. The crew cheered in hushed relief. Jaime cut his line with a dagger edge and staggered below, clothes soaked, hair plastered. He found Jorek inspecting swords. Rain did not rust good steel, but vigilance never slept. The Unsullied bowed. Storm passed, Jorek said. Still breathing, Jaime answered. He rubbed his stump, where gold met scar. The prosthetic ached phantom pains when cold seeped deep. He flexed the golden fingers. Small gears clicked. 2 days later, the sight of the arbor's vineyards, unfurling along gentle hills, filled him with awe painful as old songs. Grapevines leafed silvery in wind, distant stone manors dotted ridges. Yet no feasting banners flapped, no music drifted across water. Silence hugged the land. War left scars quieter than screams. They docked at Old Oak under cautious truce. Lord Rowan had died on the Gold Road, arrow in throat, leaving his daughter Shira to hold the castle with a thread of coin and a citadel of debt. Jaime disembarked with Jorek and 2 Unsullied, banners furled. He was ushered into a hall that smelled of dust and mildewed velvets. Shira Rowan, scarcely 16, received him in half-mourning blacks, hair unbound. Her voice trembled when she bade him sit. Word of Lannister treachery still stung the Reach. The sack of Highgarden, the stolen gold, the ruin of Tyrell pride. Jaime saw accusation burning in her watery gaze. He accepted it without protest, for some burdens must be carried openly, or they fester unseen. I am no longer field commander of the Lannister host, he began, voice low. I come on behalf of Daenerys Targaryen, Queen of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men. I am her hand. She offers protection and pardon, in exchange for fealty. Fealty? Shara's hands clenched. My people starve. Our stores burn. Fealty has cost us dearly. Then let her feed you, Jaime urged. The grain fleets of Meereen sail even now toward Blackwater Bay. Bow to her. And they turn south instead. Your cellars brim come harvest's end. Do you know? What? Shira hesitated, glancing to a maester stooped beside her. The old man's gray robes looked threadbare. He whispered, voice like rusted hinges. Jaime waited, hearing only rain beyond shuttered windows. Finally Shira lifted her head. My father swore to Lady Olenna, and she to the crown. The crown sits in King's Landing. Jaime leaned forward. The crown sits uneasy on a throne of bone and debt. Cersei offers you nothing but the same starvation and conscription that bled your people dry. She will come for your sons, your last coin, and when you have neither, she will forget you. Swear to Daenerys, and your sons stay to till your fields. Your coin returns to your coffers, and your larders fill before winter's worst. Nemiken? He saw indecision war within her. She was a child, ruling grown men's fears. Yet children sometimes glimpsed truths adults hid from themselves. After a long breath she whispered, and what of the dragons? Jaime's smile held only honesty. Dragons would rather sleep on full bellies than roast empty farms. She closed her eyes. Give me until dawn, she said. He inclined his head and withdrew. In the courtyard he watched Unsullied stand silent, sentinel beneath torches sputtering in wind. He thought of Daenerys' words. Mercy with purpose. Here was purpose. Starveling children and hollow silos. And a lordling girl with tears unshed. Dawn broke pink. Shira Rowan emerged on the battlements, voice ringing in brittle mourning. House Rowan bends the knee to Queen Daenerys Stormborn. Her vassals echoed, some reluctantly, some with relief. Jaime bowed from horseback, then dispatched ravens to Dragonstone. One oath won, many yet to come. Thus began the ride across the Reach, castle to castle, village to village. Some gates barred him. He waited, patient as winter dusk, until hunger or hope pried them open. Stories traveled faster than ravens. The Kingslayer turned counselor, promising bread, not blood. Each night he wrote to Daenerys, reports inked in cramped script by lantern light. He spoke of small folk fears, of harvest prospects, of lords who still whispered Cersei's name in dark halls. And he asked always for mercy, for grain, for healers. He never asked for dragons. Dragons he held in reserve, the silent threat behind his courtesy. Better they remained myth on the horizon than shadow blotting out the sun. Weeks passed. Gold cloaks raided the roads near Ashford, robbing merchants who dared bear Targaryen colors. Jaime hunted them with Rowan riders, his skill still sure though his sword hand gone. He fought left-handed, style unorthodox, but death did not care for symmetry. When the last cloak fell into dust, villagers cheered. He felt the cheer like a bruise. In Golden Grove he found a sept burned to the foundation. Cersei's men searching for treason in wooden walls. He knelt in ash, picked charred beams until his nails split, uncovering a cracked doll's head. That night he dreamed of Myrcella, pale and quiet upon a Dornish bier. He woke weeping, and the Unsullied at his door pretended not to see. At House Caswell seat of Bitterbridge, Lady Ellen, a stern widow with eyes keener than Maester's quills, confronted him in her solar. Tell me, Kingslayer, she snapped, why should I trust blackened steel dipped in new honey? Because the steel is tired of blood, he replied. And honey feeds more mouths than iron. Ellen studied him until dawn's first light framed her stern silhouette. She signed the fealty parchment with hands that did not shake. Another raven winged east. Word of his tour reached King's Landing before his letters reached Dragonstone. Jaime heard whispers. Cersei stripped Pycelle's successor of his chain when the maester dared mention famine. Qyburn's rats scurried louder. Tarly, formidable yet cornered, fortified old camps along the Mander, unsure which side the river might choose. Jaime sent spies to gauge his resolve. They returned with tales of soldiers cloaked in shame, haunted by memories of Drogon's fire on the Gold Road. That burn still festered. By mid-moon, Jaime's party swelled with levies pledged to Daenerys. Spearmen from Tumbleton, archers from Cider Hall, riders from Longtable. They marched beneath banners hastily stitched, dragon entwined with growing rosebuds, a new sigil of uncertain meaning. Jaime insisted each village feed itself first, only surplus traveled with the host. He wanted no repeat of reckless foraging that had left riverland fields stripped bare. The men grumbled but obeyed. Word of their restraint earned respect among commoners, who had learned to expect the worst from passing soldiers. In secret, Jaime rehearsed conversations with Tyrion, though the dwarf walked only in his mind. He would imagine laying nightly reports before his brother. "See, imp, I learned to win loyalty without buying it in wine." Tyrion would smile, world-weary, and ask, "And the cost, dear brother?" "Everything worth doing costs." Jaime would wake sometimes laughing, other times clutching his chest as though crossbow bolts still lodged there. Autumn crept across the reach, gilding orchard leaves. The scent of crushed apple drifted on fog. Jaime stood upon an overlook near Red Lake, studying reflections of his tattered banner in calm water. Behind him Jorek approached. "Raven arrived," he said, handing a scroll sealed with obsidian wax. Jaime broke it with thumb. Daenerys' reply was brief yet decisive. "Gather the lords sworn, escort them to Dragonstone before first snowfall." A council would convene. She thanked him for the grain shipments, for the minimal loss of life. Her gratitude glimmered between ink strokes. He felt its warmth. He ordered horns blown. Campfires were doused, and the host turned east. Time to present fruit of his labor to the queen whose trust had been a gamble for them all. He rode at the head, golden hand catching dawnfire. Villagers lining lanes watched, some in awe, some in wonder, a few in fear. Children pointed at the lion's sigil patched beside a spreading three-headed dragon on his cloak. Two beasts stitched to one cloth. Unthinkable, only a summer past. At Bitterbridge, Brienne awaited. Armored dust streaked from roads north. She had ridden from the riverlands with tidings. The Stark army trundled south to winter towns, preparing for snows thicker than any since Aegon's conquest. Jon Snow, king of the north, had sent ravens pleading for aid against the dead, who marched despite the wall. Jaime felt the horizon shift. The real war approached. All others were shadows. He invited Brienne into his tent that night. By candlelight they shared maps, fears, half-spoken memories of nights by a fire amidst the whispering woods. When she rose to leave, she hesitated as though to touch his cheek. Instead she bowed, courtly, and strode into cold starlight. Jaime lay awake, hearing distant wolves howl, though none roamed these fields. 3 days' march from the coast they crested a low ridge and saw the sea again, slot blue under storm clouds. Ships waited anchored. Not 2, but 5, sails emblazoned with Targaryen sigils. Dragons soared overhead, 2 full-grown now, wings casting vast shadows that sent oxen panic. Men dropped to knees instinctively. Jaime looked up unflinching, awe dulling despair. He wondered if Daenerys had come herself, or if she merely sent her children to remind mortals why oaths mattered. Either way, the realm's pulse quickened. He boarded the largest vessel, a carrack christened Queen's Mercy, and found Daenerys upon the forecastle. She wore a cloak of deep red, scales embroidered across shoulders. The wind whipped her hair. Behind, Grey Worm and Missandei flanked her. Between their boots lay coils of chain for mooring dragons. She turned as Jaime approached, and her smile, faint, tired, but real, stole his breath more than sea gale. "You did not summon dragons," she said quietly, "yet you rallied half the reach." "I offered bread," he replied, unsure whether to kneel amidst rolling deck. Instead he rested hand on rail. "And listened. That may be harder than war," she mused. Then louder, to the assemblage below, "Lords of the Reach, hear me. You have chosen justice over fear. Stand with me now, and together we will plant new fields upon ashes of tyranny." Cheers answered, some timid, some fierce. Daenerys motioned Jaime nearer. "The North calls for aid," she said under breath. "Winter, as they warned, does not wait." "I know," Jaime thought of snow teased in the wind's edge. You march north, Cersei strikes your flank. Thus I need the reach secure. Its grain moving, its swords ready. She studied him. Will they follow my hand into battle? He looked across decks at banners mingling, a lion among flowers and dragons. They will follow me if I lead them home. They will follow you if you meet them there. Her laugh was soft. You push your queen as boldly as you pushed your kings. I killed my last king, he reminded her, a shadow in his tone. May I never need kill another. He held her gaze until she nodded. The voyage to Dragonstone passed swift. Storms parted before dragon wings. Jaime felt tension coil anew. Soon he must stand in a great hall filled with lords, speak for Daenerys, prove that the Kingslayer's word weighed gold not gilt. He lay awake, nights drafting speeches, discarding them, muttering lines to the groaning hull. At dawn he walked decks with Brienne, discussing supply routes over bread crusts. Each dawn left fewer crusts. One morning he found Daenerys on the aft castle alone. The sky blushed pearl, her breath misted. She spoke without turning. When I was a girl in exile, I dreamed of returning in triumph. Yet triumph tastes of ash when the cost is borne by innocence. Tell me, Jaime, does the realm remember Aerys' terror clearer than Robert's? Aerys left scars no man forgets. He joined her at the rail. Robert left debts, but scars linger longer. And my dragons frighten them. Dragons frighten everyone, he said. They should. The question is what follows fear. Your mercy may outshine their blaze. She looked down at her hands, one gloved, one bare. My brothers spoke so often of mercy, yet showed me none. A tremor rippled her voice. Perhaps I do not know the shape of it. Mercy, Jaime said slowly, is letting a girl lord cry in private, rather than demanding tears upon a dais. Mercy is sparing a septon who forges a sword against you because you know his sons' bellies are empty. Mercy is giving a queen the truth, even when she may hate its sound. He met her eyes. You ask how mercy feels. It hurts, but it heals faster than cruelty. She stared at him, as if weighing each line. Then she reached, fingertips brushing his gold hand. Heat flashed through him, warmer than dragon flame. She said nothing further, only returned her gaze to the horizon where Dragonstone's jagged crown rose. They docked under a boiling sky. Ravens whirled above towers. In the throne room, torches flamed, though late afternoon still glimmered through high slits. Lords of the Reach filed in, escorted by Unsullied. Jaime stood at Daenerys' right. Brienne behind, Varys beyond a column, listening like a priest. Daenerys' speech soared. Promises of security, an end to raids, a new council of lords to levy fair taxes. She spoke of the Night King's threat, of uniting houses against a foe that recognized none. Jaime watched faces soften, eyes widen, shoulders square with purpose larger than loyalty. Hope, he realized, could spread like wildfire. The trick lay in guiding its burn. When she finished, silence reigned. Then Lord Tarly's son, Dickon, stepped forward, voice steady though his father's blade hung at his hip. Your Grace, he said, the Reach stands ready. Command, and we will answer. Cheers erupted. Jaime exhaled, long and low. He felt Tyrion's imaginary hand clap his shoulder. The realm had budged one step toward salvation. Yet one step is not the journey. Winter hammered at northern walls. Cersei sharpened claws behind southern ones. Jaime knew war would still come, staining snows red. He also knew he would stand between queen and chaos, sword in left hand, gold in right, ready to gamble everything a second time. That night, torches lined the great hall like fallen stars as feasting began. Minstrels plucked harps. Reachmen uncorked arbor, gold brought under truce. Jaime sipped sparingly, mindful of ghosts. Daenerys drifted among tables, laughter warm. Dragons roared outside, restless. Near midnight she found him atop the battlements where they'd first spoken weeks earlier. My hand, she said, cloak swirling. You delivered half a kingdom. I only nurtured what you planted. They stood side by side. Below, surf-battered stone. Jaime glanced at her profile. The resolve etched there, the hunger for justice and belonging braided through her hair. He thought of Brienne's warning, when forced to choose between her and right. He prayed the choice would never come. Yet vows rarely slept peacefully. Daenerys turned suddenly. "Ride with me north. The lords of the Reach can follow your letters, but the north needs more than parchment. They need the dragon and the lion standing together." She raised a brow. "Can you keep pace on a dragon's wing, Kingslayer?" He laughed, true and free. "I can cling to a saddle, though I prefer feet on ground. Ground may not hold, once ice walks." She extended her hand. He took it. Flesh to flesh this time. They clasped. A pact forged beneath star-filled dark, swirled by salt wind and the distant thunder of dragon calls. In that clasp, Jaime felt the turning of wheels older than dragons, older than thrones, wheels of choice and change. He had once broken an oath to save a city. Now he remade himself in service of another dream. What price would fate demand this time? He did not know. And for the first time in years, the ignorance thrilled him rather than chilled. Somewhere to the north, a wall of ancient ice groaned. Somewhere to the south, a queen of wildfire plotted. But here, upon Dragonstone's wind-carved spine, a different story began to unfurl. One where a Kingslayer sought redemption not in steel but in counsel, where a dragon queen learned the weight of mercy, and where the fate of kingdoms turned upon a single golden hand, reaching through darkness toward a dawn neither could yet see. "Aye." Snow whispered across the battlements of Dragonstone, the first true flakes of the season spiraling from a moonless sky. They melted on basalt still warm from dragonfire, hissing like secret voices in the dark. Jaime Lannister tasted one on his tongue and found it carried the faint copper sting of distant battle, as if even winter had learned to bleed. Behind him, preparations for the northern march churned day and night. Smiths hammering new ferules onto spears, scribes sealing parchment orders, stewards counting barrels of grain and dried fish until numbers blurred. In every corridor, men and women spoke of ice-eyed corpses that walked by night, of wolves as tall as horses, of a wall of ancient magic failing like old mortar between stones. Jaime kept silent, listening, letting fear braid itself through hope. Fear gave hope its shape. 2 mornings after the Reach Lords swore, he woke to the growl of dragons tearing clouds on their ascent. Dawn's first gray gleam revealed ships bobbing in the bay, rigging clacking like wind chimes. The Queen's command came by swift runner: "Assemble the vanguard within the hour, mount Rhaegal for Winterfell." Jaime had stood in shield walls, charged breach lines, faced wildfire, but mounting a dragon eclipsed them all. He girded himself in boiled leather and ringmail, eschewing heavier plate. Weight was the enemy where wings were concerned, and walked the causeway toward the sands where Rhaegal crouched. Rhaegal's scales shimmered green as summer leaves glimpsed through rain, ridged with gold that caught sunrise. His nostrils steamed, his eyes, slitted and ancient, regarded Jaime with flat disinterest bordering on disdain. The beast's breath smelled of burning cedar. Dothraki handlers muttered prayers to gods who rode comets. They held iron hooks the size of oars, though none dared approach too close. Daenerys waited beside the dragon, cloak snapping. When Jaime reached her, she extended a hand gloved in supple white doveskin. "Your first flight?" she asked. "My first," he admitted, though he kept his voice calm. "I once vaulted battlements for sport, but I suspect the heights differ." "That they do." She squeezed his fingers once, an unexpected softness. "Trust him. Trust me." He placed foot into a leather stirrup stitched between 2 horn-like scutes behind the wing joint. With his left hand he hauled himself upward, the gold arm clinking as it found poor purchase. Rhaegal's hide felt silken yet hard beneath, a living mosaic of plates. Jaime settled into the saddle Daenerys' bloodriders had fashioned. Minimal, more like a pillion strapped to spikes than true seat. Straps cinched around his thighs, another clasped his waist. He tested its bite. Daenerys vaulted in one flowing motion, hair streaming. She slid ahead of him, every braid coiled high to clear the wind. "Hold fast." She tapped Rhaegal's neck with a spur of polished bone. The dragon launched. The world fell. Air tore Jaime's gasp from his chest. Sea and castle shrank to toys, then to lines, then to nothing but swirling gray. Cold knifed through leather. His eyes watered, froze at lashes. He clung to the front saddle arch, the gold fingers of his prosthesis digging scratches into black horn. Yet, amid terror, exhilaration roared. He felt the dragon's muscles bunch, felt the heartbeat thundering through hide, felt the dizzying freedom of weightlessness as Rhaegal banked into sunlight. To the west, Drogon soared, wings a span of night. In his shadow flew squadrons of ships below, vanishing behind whitecaps. East, Basirion wheeled like stray lightning, escort of pale gold. Together, the three dragons formed a broken Triskelion carving the dawn. Jaime dared glance sideways. Daenerys' profile glowed in the windrush. Eyes narrowed, lips curved in rapture, cheeks flushed. No crown, no iron, only wind and flame and sky. He understood in that moment why men followed her. She was possibility made flesh, an answer to every prayer uttered in darkness. Hours bled beneath them. They stopped twice. Once at a lonely crownland meadow where the dragons drank from a lake that hissed when their tongues touched. Once upon a rocky outcrop above the river Blackwaters. Upper reaches to water the smaller horses, racing north with supply wagons. Jaime dismounted after the second flight, legs shaking. Brienne, who had ridden overland, greeted him with a half-smile and a waterskin. She did not mock his pallor. She only said, "The faster to winter, the less time the dead have to march." Night found them encamped in an abandoned sept, whose roof had collapsed years before, leaving only ribs of beams silhouetted against stars. Daenerys paced the shattered nave, discussing provisions with Missandei, while Grey Worm organized watch rotations. Jaime traced half-obliterated frescoes of the Seven, their faces cracked. In the apse, a candle guttered before a statue of the Mother. Some refugee gone, had left a child's knitted mitten at her feet. Jaime pocketed it, meaning to return it to Daenerys' quartermaster for distribution, but later he found his fist clutched around the mitten as he slept, as if his dreams feared cold. The neck greeted them with sleet. Marshland slurped at the boots of unsullied outriders. Crannogmen emerged from fog like reeds come alive, bows drawn, until Ghost, Jon Snow's giant pale direwolf, appeared, trotting silently ahead of a vanguard flying the direwolf banner, and the crimson three-headed dragon entwined. Jon himself, black cloak rimed with frost, dismounted beside Daenerys at a crook of the green fork. He embraced her swift restrained, then turned to Jaime. "The last time we met," Jon said, "I was a boy with a bastard surname, watching you ride through Winterfell gates beside King Robert." His eyes measured Jaime not unkindly, but with the weary skepticism of a man who had seen vows sundered by death too often to value words without proof. "You pushed Bran a path he was never meant to walk." Jaime bowed his head. "And I would give all I have to undo it." Jon studied him. Winter wind rattled pine branches overhead, flinging ice like thrown sand. At length, Jon said, "We march to fight nightmares. I care not for old grudges nor for titles earned by darker deeds. If Daenerys trusts you, I'll judge by your sword arm and your counsel." "My sword arm now is mostly wit," Jaime quipped, lifting the golden hand. "We need wit." Jon turned to the Queen. "But Winterfell is strained. Grain stocks dip. Tired men fill the walls. And Sansa holds grudges on behalf of the living as fiercely as I forget them for the dead." Daenerys' mouth tightened. Jaime recalled whispers of tension between Queen and Lady Stark. The politics of kneeling, of dragons, of Northman pride. He stroked his beard, feeling frost crunch. "Then we win the North one supper at a time. Every grain ship from the south must dock at White Harbor before snowfall traps the port." "They will," Daenerys said. Jaime saw her jaw set stone. She would not allow her new allies to starve or question her commitment. They rode on. Ahead, white walls rose from the dusk. Winterfell, ancient as memory, its towers dusted pale. Smoke drooped from chimneys. the low moan of a hunting horn carried across moats. Ghosts bounded through gates flung open with minimal ceremony. Courtyards bustled, blacksmiths forging arrowheads, women stirring vats of cabbage soup, washerwomen wringing blood from linens. Dragons were tethered beyond the godswood, far enough to prevent panic yet visible to remind all that fire had come to dwell among ice. Sansa Stark awaited in the great hall, flanked by Sir Davos, a smattering of northern lords, and Lyanna Mormont cloaked in bearskin too large for her frail shoulders. The hearth blazed but could not dispel the draft. Sansa's auburn hair cascaded beneath a circlet of weirwood carved into interlocking leaves, a queen symbol in all but title. Her expression sharpened like a falcon's just before the stoop as Jaime entered behind Daenerys. "Lady Stark," Jaime said, bowing. Her gaze pinned him still. "A Lannister in Winterfell once brought ruin." Her voice held winter steel. "Forgive me if I watch closely. I would expect no less." Sansa turned to Daenerys. "We need clear chains of command, Your Grace. Jon may bend the knee, but our men follow me first, the king in the north second, and you by faith. Show me how this army's tangle becomes a spear point sharp enough to pierce the Night King." "Nah. Daenerys nodded. Negotiation sparked. Jaime watched silently, admiring Sansa's poise. She wielded courtesy like a blade. Eventually a plan formed. Jon commanding northern levies, Grey Worm leading Unsullied, Jaime advising field deployments from a war council comprised of both camps. Tyrion's seat empty, now filled by Samwell Tarly's astute logistical mind. Brienne would coordinate defense of vulnerable hamlets as refugees flooded in. Dragons would patrol skyward to burn whites, but not stray south lest rumors feed Cersei's paranoia. Night deepened. The hall emptied. Jaime lingered, tracing the stone direwolves carved into pillars. He remembered a boy clambering above these very ledges with impish grin. He closed eyes, saw that grin turn to horror, felt again the push of his own palm. When he opened them, Bran Stark sat before him in a wheeled chair carved of hearttree wood. The boy he had maimed had become something else, eyes ancient, voice distant. "You came to kill your sister once," Bran said, voice flat yet echoing with something layered behind. "I came to serve her," Jaime whispered, "and then to stop her. Now, I come to serve your queen." Bran's lips twitched in what might be a sad smile. "The things we do for love." The phrase hung heavy between them. Jaime waited for condemnation. Instead, Bran's gaze drifted to the fire. "The past is written. The ink is dry. All we can do is choose how to meet it when it arrives again." His attention returned, piercing. "You will face your sister soon. Beware the price of mercy where none is offered." Jaime bowed low, humbled. Bran nodded once, a benediction or release, and wheeled away, leaving Jaime in the hush of cracking hearth. Days folded into routine. Snow thickened. Scouts brought news. The Night King's host had broken from the haunted forest and marched along the King's Road. 500,000 dead and more gathering like a blizzard behind. Common Giantsbane arrived breathless from Lost Hoth. Beard rhymed in rhyme, recounting horrors beneath aurora-lit skies. He clasped Jon in a bear's hug, eyed Jaime suspiciously, but soon had no energy for old rivalries. The living had bigger quarrels. Jaime slept in a guest tower once built for royal company, though drafts found every seam. He spent evenings hunched over parchment with Samwell and Davos, designing fallback trenches, debating pitch oil reserves, distilling Samwell's maester lore into quick commands. They planned fire traps using timbers soaked in the dragonglass/Grey Worm smiths were forging into arrowheads and spear tips. Bran directed ravens, his mind's wings scouting beyond mortal sight. Each day new refugees poured through gates, Umber children half-starved, Karstark men missing fingers to frostbite, wildlings telling of frozen giants shattering gates like tinder. Brienne drilled green boys beside veterans, her booming commands echoing across the courtyard. Jaime watched her teach a farmer's son how to brace shield with knee bent. At dusk, they shared silent dinners, exhaustion tarring conversation. He found solace in her company, as if she anchored him to a part of himself untainted by Lannister gold. When he asked if she feared, she scoffed. "Fear? I fear failing them, that is all." He knew then he loved her, though what shape love could take in the jaws of winter, he could not name. Meanwhile, ravens from south grew dire. Qyburn's message, sealed in black wax, arrived one gray dawn: surrender King's Landing to rightful queen, or witness nightly executions of remaining Tyrell retainers. Daenerys' knuckles whitened reading it. Jaime felt bile rise. Cersei strangled dissent with letters as cruel as nooses. Yet Daenerys tucked the scroll away. "Later," she whispered. Winterfell soon bustled like an anthill. Unsullied erected towers of chilled earth reinforced with wooden slats. Dragons roared in rehearsal above, practice strafes incinerating hay-stuffed white effigies. From the crypts, stone kings watched preparations with patient stone eyes. At Daenerys' behest, Jaime walked those crypt corridors, torch-lifting gloom. He stopped at Ned Stark's marble effigy. He bowed, whispering apology none alive could bear witness to, and felt, perhaps, the hush lighten an ounce. Outside, wind howled. The Night King came. First contact sparked 3 leagues north at a ruined watchtower, where the North's outriders clashed with vanguard whites. Surviving riders galloped back, snow plumes trailing, tongues thick with tales of undead bears. War horns blared. Jaime donned scaled mail, strapped cloak, and joined the rush to man walls. Across snowy fields rolled darkness alive, an undulating tide flecked with pale faces and shattered bones. Above, thunderclouds rolled black, yet no storm birthed them. Only cold magic swirling in the Night King's wake. Dragons rose, shrieking. Fires were lit along ramparts, tar-soaked trenches set ablaze, casting an orange, throbbing aura. Jaime took post atop the east wall with Davos and a dozen archers. He drew a dragon-glass dagger, the irony of wielding obsidian against ice not lost on him, and watched the dead slam into outer stakes. Explosions of ash soared as Drakefire scorched ranks, but the wave pressed on, climbing bodies of the fallen. Atop a distant ridge, the Night King sat his pale horse, spear of ice in hand, crown of ragged horns catching moonlight. Jaime's breath froze mid-sentence. Arrow volleys whistled. White scrabbled up ladders of their own flesh. Grey worms unsullied locked shields in phalanx, dragon steel points skewering skulls. The air stank of scorched rot. Jaime shouted commands, voicing numbers, calling reposition orders. His throat burned raw, but he refused to retreat to command tents. When a skinless giant heaved against the South Barbican gate, Jaime raced across rampart, directing catapults loaded with stone set ablaze by wildfire jars. Cersei's cruelties inverted to purpose. The projectile smashed the giant's knee. Flames whooshed green and eerie, painting snow with emerald halos. The giant collapsed. Unsullied spears finished the skull. Hours blurred. At dawn's pallid light, the dead retreated, called back by some silent command. The field lay heaped with twitching corpses, some still writhing until dragonglass ended them. Smoke coiled skyward, mixing with ravens. Jaime slumped against a merlin, muscles quivering. Brienne arrived, blood splattered, helm dented. She clasped his arm, eyes wide but steady. "We held for tonight," he rasped. Daenerys descended on Drogon, landing in the courtyard. She dismounted lightly, cloak afire with snow spark. She walked the ramparts surveying ruin, grief clouding violet gaze. Jaime approached. "You saved us," he said. "We lost 200. Snowflakes chilled her lashes. And we have only begun." She inhaled like someone tasting poison. "We cannot win by attrition. We must strike at the Night King." "He waits for that," Jaime answered. "He wants you and your dragons drawn out. Slay you, scatter the living. Then we lure him improperly," said a new voice. Arya Stark materialized, pale and silent, sword of Valyrian steel at hip, face smudged with soot. "The dead follow him by bond. Cut the bond, or sever its command, and the army collapses. Bran's sight can lead us to him." Bran, wheeled forth by Samwell, nodded. "He will seek me. In the Godswood. He knows I am memory. He will come." Thus a plan formed. Bran to sit under the ancient weirwood, watched by Theon Greyjoy's iron-born archers and a covert guard, led by Arya. Jaime would co-command outer defenses, while Jon and Daenerys soared to distract the Ice Dragon Viserion. Draw the Night King into reach of dragonglass ballista bolts, forged from Scorpion Design's Qyburn once built. The night before the final stand, silence descended upon Winterfell like a spell. Fires burned low. Men whispered farewells to unseen mothers. Women sharpened knives dulled by hours' labor. Snow drifted unceasing. Jaime walked the courtyard, exchanging nods with tired sentries. He found Brienne leaning against a stable post, hair plastered to brow. "Come with me," he said. They climbed a tower stair lit by guttering torches until they emerged upon a narrow walkway overlooking the Godswood. The heart tree glowed crimson in torchlight, its carved face weeping sap tears. Jaime removed his glove from the golden hand, letting frigid air sting the raw scar rim. "I once thought this hand cursed," he murmured. "Now I think it reminder." "Of what?" she asked. "To hold on to what mercy I can." He turned, voice low. "If I fall tomorrow, remember I tried." Brienne's eyes glittered. She pressed her palm over the gold fingers, a benediction. "We both did." She leaned, brushed his cheek with chapped lips, fleeting as frost. Then she straightened, cheeks aflame, and marched away before words could twist it into something fragile. Jaime watched until shadows swallowed her azure cloak. He smiled despite dread. Dawn refused to break on the day the Night King returned. The sky clothed itself in murk, hiding sun's pale face. Havoc began in hush. Temperature plummeted. Breath crystallized mid-air. Torches guttered against unnatural wind. Jaime paced parapets, shouting final orders. Everyone knew their place. Everyone suspected it simplified nothing. A horn sounded thrice. Whites. Then a scream. A new sound. Shrill, echoing through Marrow. Viserion's shriek, twisted by death. Across the northern sky, a jagged blue flame ripped clouds, carving a line toward Winterfell. Jon and Daenerys mounted their dragons and shot skyward, a ballet of impossible scale swirling above. Meanwhile, the dead flooded trenches. Oil-slick surfaces burst alight, but whites threw themselves upon flames, dampening with smothering bodies. Ladders shoved through smoke. Jaime swung a long axe, left-handed strikes, clumsy but strong, hooking dead from walls. His gold fingers occasionally deflected blades, with impossible resonance. In the Godswood, Bran sat serene. White ravens circled overhead, his mind flitting through them. The heart tree's eyes bled red tears. Arya crouched high among branches, needle and Valyrian dagger glinting. Suddenly, movement at the ridge. Mounted forms, white, gaunt, tall. The Night King rode at center, spear of ice raised. Beside Jaime, Davos face blanched. "There," Jaime muttered. He signaled, "Scorpion cruise." Ballista cables twanged, bolts of dragon glass hissed through air. Two struck white horses, one shattered harmless off the Night King's armor of ancient ice. He kept coming. Jon and Rhaegal dove, flame streaming taut. The Night King hurled spear, Rhaegal juked. The spear clipped wing membrane, sending dragon tumbling earthward, though still flapping. Jaime felt the ground tremble on impact beyond walls. Daenerys then swooped on Drogon, fury embodied. Fire engulfed the Night King, but blue figure emerged unhurt, menace embodied. He advanced toward Godswood. Jaime abandoned wall command. "Davos, hold them." He sprinted down stone steps, across courtyard cluttered with wounded, toward Godswood gate. Snow blinded, but he pushed. Inside, silent calm reigned, red leaves drifting. Bran stared at approaching doom. Theon's iron-born loosed arrows. Shafts shattered on iced armor. Theon charged with spear of dragon glass, yelling. Spear broke. Theon fell, lungs pierced. Night King stepped over him. Jaime burst through brush. Only Arya remained, creeping behind Trunk. Jaime placed himself between Night King and Bran. Sword in left hand, gold hand clenched. Night King's eyes, electric azure, fixed on Jaime. Frost spread in spiderweb across ground. "Come then," Jaime whispered. The Night King tilted head, confused perhaps by lack of fear. He twirled his blade, swung. Jaime parried, but strength behind strike numbed his shoulder. He retreated. Blow after blow hammered, golden hand dented. Yet Jaime held. Behind, Arya launched. She fainted low. Night King caught her throat. She dropped dagger, flipped it, but he swatted aside, sending her crashing. Jaime lunged. Shift of focus exploited. He thrust Valyrian's steel edge of Oathkeeper. The sword he had given Brienne, and now borrowed for Fate's Pass. Toward gap, beneath Night King's chin. The blade bit but not deep. Icy armor cracked but held. Night King backhanded Jaime, ribs shattering. Pain blotted world. Jaime fell. Snow swallowed him. Vision tunneled as the Night King raised ice sword to finish. In that instant, golden fingers, dented, reflexively clenched around the hilt of Arya's fallen dagger. Dragonglass. Powerless to stand, Jaime flung his prosthetic forward in desperate arc dart. The golden hand spun like a comet, clanging off icy cuirass. The dragonglass dagger embedded where wrist joined. A flicker of fissure spidered outward, not deep enough. But distraction bought a heartbeat. Bran's eyes flashed white. Raven screamed. Wind howled. Arya rose behind, silent as snow. She vaulted, grabbing dagger protruding from Night King's armor, ripping golden hand free. Momentum carried dagger downward, plunging it beneath rib plate, exactly where crystal fissures widened. She drove with both hands, twisting. The Night King froze. Blue light flickered, shattering into motes. Ice cracked, frost erupted. He exploded in a cyclone of shards. Silence fell abrupt as drawn breath. Across the battlefield, whites convulsed, collapsing into lifeless heaps. The storm ceased. A pale sun peeled through clouds. Cries of confusion became screams of joy. Jaime lay gasping, rib pain knifed. Arya knelt, snow bloody where her knee pressed. She placed golden hand back upon his chest. "Hold that," she said, voice trembling, half laugh. Bran wheeled closer, eyes normal again, and for the first time he smiled. Small, but bright as first spring crocus. "Thank you," he said simply. 3 days later, Winterfell's pyres were lit. Columns of smoke bent south on cold wind, bearing names of fallen to gods. The living gathered in line. Northmen, unsullied. Dothraki. Reach riders. Jon recited vows of honor. Daenerys spoke of unity. When Lord Glover stepped from ranks to kneel before her unsummoned, cheers echoed. Sansa looked on, lips pursed but eyes resigned. In the Godswood, Jaime leaned on a staff, ribs bound, breathing shallow. Brienne approached wearing a surcoat, scorched and stitched anew. She set Oathkeeper, wiped clean, in his lap. "It belongs to you again," she said. "No," he answered. He pressed blade back. "It was forged for you, to protect the innocent. Keep it." Their hands brushed. She held his gaze. "You nearly died. Nearly living reminds one how sweet living is." He exhaled. "And there is more living to do." "Cersei?" she guessed. "She will not yield." He stared toward south horizon, though only gray sky met him. "Now that the north is safe, the realm still suffers under her yoke. I must end it. Not alone. I would not ask you to forsake Winterfell." Bran's chin rose. "Winterfell can spare one night. Besides, your spear arm is dented gold and broken ribs." She flashed a half grin. "You'll need someone to lift you into the saddle." He laughed, pain lancing but joy stronger. "Then, ride with me." They left. 7 days later, Queen Daenerys watched from parapets. She had other matters. To parley with Sansa over North's autonomy, to heal dragons' wounds, to send grain caravans where famine loomed. She placed hand on Jaime's shoulder before departure. "You are my hand still," she said. "End this war. Bring justice." He bowed. "I will try. Mercy, where possible." "Then see." "Mercy," she echoed, as if tasting the word anew. South they rode. Brienne, Jaime, a retinue of 50 unsullied spears and 50 reach cavalry. The road lay littered with burned farms, victims to Cersei's scorched earth gambit. Proof of her desperation. Yet along the way, folk filled ditches, rebuilt walls, waved timidly at the banner they bore. A crimson dragon, a golden lion, interlaced upon white field. People whispered of Night King's defeat, of walls of dead collapsing, of spring promised. At Tumbleton, ravens brought tidings. Euron Greyjoy's fleet harried Dragonstone, but Rhaegal and Drogon, though wounded, scorched half his ships before he fled. At King's Landing, unrest festered, breadlines stretched, gold cloaks deserted. Qyburn's birds screeched rumors. Cersei preparing wildfire caches beneath the city once more. The hammer fell at River Blackwater's mouth. Jaime's column met advance forces of the Golden Company, elephants and sellswords hired by Cersei. He recognized banners. Black fury on gold. 2 years earlier he had dreamed of buying their service himself. Now they barred path to home he intended to unseat. Battle opened beneath lowering sky. Brienne led cavalry charge that struck elephants' flanks, scattering. Unsullied formed shield wall blocking mercenary crossbowmen. Jaime oversaw flank maneuvers, voice hoarse but sure. His ribs healed enough to swing mace at stragglers. By dusk, Golden Company standards lay trampled. Their commander, Harry Strickland, yielded before dawn. Jaime offered quarter. He knew sellswords fought for coin, not queen. Many accepted amnesty and marched south, turned cloaks. The gates of King's Landing loomed next, ramparts manned by starved conscripts. Jaime dispatched riders with terms. Open gates, stand down, spare the city wildfire purgatory. Response came swift, arrows black-fletched. Scrawled note pinned to shaft. "The lioness does not yield." Cersei's hand is plain as lion's stamp. Jaime scanned walls, memory flickering. Strolls with Tyrion, twilights with Cersei, father's stern silhouette. He spoke to Brienne that night in camp outside. "Tomorrow, I go alone inside," he said. "She will not meet envoys, but she will see me." Brienne objected. He insisted. At last she nodded, though sorrow creased her eyes. Morning, Jaime rode through mud to mud gate, unarmored save Gambeson. Cloak white, though stained. Trumpets sounded. Gate opened just enough. Qyburn emerged, gaunt visage smug. Her Grace accepts an audience. Inside, city stank of fear. Charred hovels, silent crowd lines, wildfire smell wafting from sewers. Gold cloaks eyed Jaime warily. He passed red keeps, scorched courtyards, where dragonfire once danced. Throne room doors yawned. Cersei sat the Iron Throne, pale, gaunt, eyes ringed dark. A babe months old cried in nursemaid's arms beside. Rumors of pregnancy proved. Jaime's heart twisted. Qyburn stepped aside. "Brother," Cersei purred, voice brittle. "Come to beg my surrender." "I came to save you," Jaime replied, stepping closer until swords crossed his path. He raised gold hand. Guards hesitated. "Save our child. Save the city. The city is mine." Her eyes blazed like wildfire. "If I cannot keep it, no one will." He saw madness, born not of dragonfire, but grief and vengeance and isolation. He had once slain a king to stop his flame. Now another tyrant, his own blood, threatened worse. Tears pricked. "Cersei, please." She rose, stroking the babe's hair. "Go back to your Silver Queen, Kingslayer. Die in her fire." He whispered, "I love you." The old truth tasted ash. Yet he meant it. Love of what she had been, not this broken reflection. He reached for her cheek. She recoiled. In that instant, Qyburn signaled. Arrows thrummed, thunking into columns. Warning. Jaime stepped back, heart heavy. "Farewell," she said. The next time we meet, only one of us will breathe." He bowed, turned, and walked away. In camp, Jaime told Daenerys' envoy, a hawk-fast rider, that Cersei refused. The queen, still at Dragonstone preparing final assault, sent simple reply. Then we end it swiftly. Rhaegal and Drogon arrived 2 dawns later, wings still tattered but eager. Daenerys herself guided them, armor of black scale glinting. Zeeg towers trundled behind unsullied phalanxes. Brienne stood with Jaime atop a rise. "Will she burn the city?" Brienne asked. "She will try not to," Jaime said. His chest hollowed. He remembered mercy. He must forge it once more. He rode before Daenerys as she studied walls. "Give me one more chance," he begged. "I know the wildfire caches. I can disable the triggers. Spare the city. Time is blood, Jaime," she said. "Then give me dusk. Only until dusk." He met her eyes. "Trust your hand." She weighed, nodded slowly. Dusk. Jaime, Brienne, and a small cadre, infiltrated via a forgotten postern Jaime remembered from boyhood training under Ser Barristan. Tunnels stank of rot. Rat skulls littered floor. They reached under crypt arsenals, where Qyburn prepared green jars. 2 guards fell swiftly to Brienne's pommel. She refused kill. Jaime dispatched jars into river through grated drain, each splash a prayer. They lit no spark. By dusk, half the wildfire caches lay drowned. But Cersei's last cache nestled beneath the Sept of Baelor's ruins, guarded by sworn fanatics. Jaime and Brienne arrived too late. Torches already set. Cersei stood above cracked tiles, baby in swaddle, lips twitching. "Burn it all," she hissed. Jaime stepped between her and Brazier. "Don't," he pleaded. Brienne circled wide, blade raised. Cersei's jaw trembled. "You choose her," she spat. "Over us." "I choose life." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I choose our child's life," he urged. For a heartbeat she wavered. Then torch slipped, tumbling toward open jar. Jaime lunged, golden hand catching torch, flames licking sleeve. He hurled torch aside. Jar rocked, but held. Brienne-sized child from nursemaid's shock-slack arms. Cersei screamed, clawing rifle fast. Jaime grappled her. She fought like cornered lioness, nails raking his scarred face. He kissed her forehead, whispering apologies, and pressed her into Brienne's waiting arms of restraint. City bells tolled. Gates opened. Unsullied marched, but no dragonfire reigned. Jaime emerged bearing child. A boy with green eyes. Cersei bound in soft cloths, sobbing. Surrendered. Daenerys landed. Crowd watched. Silence rippled. "Justice," Daenerys declared. "Not vengeance." She decreed Cersei to stand trial before lords and small folk. Seeing wildfire jars sunk, seeing child in Jaime's arms, seeing city unburnt, the crowd knelt. Bells pealed again. Not terror, but relief. Later, on a balcony overlooking Blackwater Rush, Jaime stood with Daenerys. Smoke of forge fires coiled, but no wildfire. Dusk painted rivers mauve. "You kept your promise," she said softly. "So did you," he replied. She touched his golden fingers. "Mercy hurts, but heals." She breathed deep. "Will you stay, Hand of the Queen?" He looked to Brienne teaching a cluster of orphan children sword forms in the yard below. He watched Qyburn led away in chains. He heard distant laughter edging into city air for first time in years. "I will stay," he said, "until the realm needs me elsewhere." He felt Tyrion's phantom laughter again, approving. Above, dragons wheeled under setting sun. Below, bells rang. Winter had broken. Spring's first thaw dripped from eaves. Jaime Lannister, golden-handed, Kingslayer, Queensaver, breathed the smoke-scented air. And for the first time since a young knight in golden armor rode out from Casterly Rock, felt the weight of his name lighten into something like grace. Come Kei. Sir Giles Rosby's coppers chimed like prayer bells when the breeze from the east rattled them on their line. He had strung the coins, first honors cut from Tycho Nestoris's Braavosi loan. in a childish garland that drooped from gatehouse to bailey wall, proclaiming the treasury reopened and flush. Each bright penny swirled in morning sun as sparrows flitted among them, pecking for scraps of barley. Jaime Lannister watched from the marble terrace outside the Tower of the Hand, cloak flapping. The coins glittered like tiny promises. He had learned promises were feathers, beautiful and light, but too easily ripped from flesh when storms flew in. Far below, masons rebuilt the southern spur of the city wall, where Cersei's last wildfire cache had stained stone a sickly green. Their hammers made a steady rhythm, a heartbeat for King's Landing's slow resurrection. The scent of fresh mortar mingled with the sea's brine, masking for the first time in years the acrid undertone of charred linen and fear. It felt like breathing through clean linen after a lifetime spent beneath mold-damp blankets. Brienne's laughter drifted up. In the shade of an orange tree, she sparred with a line of orphan boys and girls, clutching wooden swords. She corrected stances, teased, encouraged. When a girl called Mara landed a strike on Brienne's vambrace, the courtyard erupted in cheers. Jaime smiled. A year earlier, those same children would have cowered from gold cloaks. Now their world had a horizon broader than survival. A chamberlain cleared his throat behind him. "A moment, my lord." "Their graces await counsel." Jaime nodded, tore his gaze away. Inside, the solar glowed with late autumn sunlight, filtered through shutters, carved into intertwining dragons and roses. The craft of Reach carpenters eager to impress their new sovereign. The council stood assembled. Queen Daenerys, straight-backed, her braid heavy with silver rings. Sansa Stark, cloaked in undyed wool trimmed with ice-fox fur. Samwell Tarly hunched over ledgers. Davos Seaworth polishing a sea map with calloused thumb. And Ilaria Sand, newly freed from dungeon chains and garbed in dignified black-scaled leather, representing Dorne at last. At their periphery lurked Grand Maester Orwyle, pages fussing with scrolls, and Lord Jon Royce of the Vale, silver mustache newly oiled. Tyrion's chair, Daenerys had insisted it remain, held no occupant. His absence was a bruise that refused to fade. The dwarf, last seen sailing west to seek the edge of the map where fools fall off, haunted them all. Daenerys gestured to an empty space beside her. Jaime stepped into the circle. She began without preamble. The grain reserves from the Reach have stabilized the capital, but winter lingers yet in the North Roads. Reports from the Dreadfort speak of highwaymen preying on convoys near the Trident. We must secure passage or countless will starve come frost. Metin Pet. Jon Royce rumbled, "The Vale can spare 1,000 men-at-arms. We're untouched by war. Our granaries burst." Sansa's voice, cool and clear, added, "The North will match that, though our harvests are lean. When you keep a promise, your grace, Northerners remember." She inclined her head to Daenerys, but her eyes flicked to Jaime, old watchfulness dying hard. Samwell set Quill aside. "Dragons, it seems, discourage banditry. Might Rhaegal or Drogon make a demonstration? Not a raising, but a pass overhead?" Daenerys considered. "Rhaegal's wing is whole again. We could spare him." Ilaria spoke, voice a low desert hush. "Let the Iron Fleet escort the grain up Blackwater, then upriver by barge. Euron's reavers scatter at the sight of a Greyjoy sails, provided the sails belong to Yara, not her uncle." "Yara's fleet remains at Pike," Davos countered, guarding against Euron's return. "We'll need a different escort." Jaime tapped the table. "The Sell Sails who bent knee after the Blackwater crossing could earn their pardon. They know the Trident's bends." Eyes turned. He shrugged. "Strickland's remnant is 400, with 3 river craft. Promise them pay in coin earned from safe delivery, plus land in the riverlands once resettled. Sellswords crave roots eventually." Sansa folded arms. "That land belongs to houses who suffered most. Will they see Sellswords, Lannister pardoned Sellswords, as saviors or thieves?" "Depends who brings them," Jaime answered. "Let Lady Mormont ride point. The bear's roar wins, trust the lion never will." Sansa allowed a ghost of a smile. "Duly considered." Daenerys closed debate with a nod. "Then the motion stands. Royce's Vale Knights and Northmen under Mormont will escort Strickland's barges. Regal overflies weekly. Dispatch ravens before moonset. The meeting shifted to larger matters. The trial. It loomed like thunder beyond every conversation. Cersei, chained in the black cells, awaited judgment before a great convening of lords and smallfolk. Daenerys pledged to show justice rather than conquest. The faith militant had been disarmed after their complicity in wildfire plots, but the High Septon would preside as moral voice beside Daenerys and Sansa Darkhair. Jaime's gut tightened whenever agenda reached that item, yet he willed his face a mask. 2 days remain, Grand Maester Orwyle said, shuffling parchments. We've confirmed delegations from Hightower, Tarly, Dane, and Karstark. All househeads that can limp this far intend attendance. Daenerys looked to Jaime. Will she speak? Jaime inhaled. She's rehearsed 3 speeches, one denying all, one blaming Euron, one blaming me. Which she chooses depends on the crowd. Davos grunted. You know her best. How should the realm receive her? With pity, Jaime answered. Anything else grants her martyrdom. Silence greeted that. Pity was in short supply after 2 decocads spent under a lioness paw. Yet Daenerys gave a single nod. I trust my hand. The council adjourned. As chairs scraped, Sansa caught Jaime's sleeve. A word privacy. They stepped onto a vestibule balcony shadowed by overhanging statues of Targaryen kings. Pigeons nested in Maegor's stone beard. Sansa folded hands within her sleeves. Tomorrow one of 2 tales takes root. Either the realm sees mercy triumph, or it sees Lannister cunning win yet another Game of Thrones. I would not have the latter. Demdero. I share that aim, Jaime said quietly. Cersei must face consequence, but parading her like a freak. I don't propose parade, Sansa cut. I propose honesty. Let the public hear her crimes from victims' tongues. Let Brienne recount Renly's death by shadow, Tyrion the wildfire in the Blackwater, Illyria the death of her prince, even smallfolk beggars who watched brothers burn beneath dragon flame in the city she forced them to hold. Truth, no embellishment. She met his gaze. You trust mercy, I trust truth. Together, perhaps they heal. No. Jaime offered a brittle smile. Brienne will speak. So will I. She gave a crisp nod and glided away, leaving silence thick as cobwebs. Jaime lingered, staring across rooftops, where banners of red and black flapped beside white deerwolves and sputtering gold roses. They reminded him of a tapestry woven by an optimistic child, a bright picture stitched atop ragged cloth still soaked with blood. He descended to cellars carved into Aegon's Hill, past guards in new crimson cloaks embroidered with both dragon and lion. He carried only a wooden stool under one arm. At the final door of black iron he nodded. The porter unbarred it. Cersei sat upon straw, hair shorn to her jaw by jailor sheet clawed on arrival. Yet her poise remained a queen's. Spine straight, chin high. The babe, and named Joffrey II of his name, slept in a wicker cradle. Torchlight danced over her features, carving hollows beneath cheekbone. She watched Jaime enter. I thought you'd forgotten your own blood. Sarcasm lacked former venom. Dull fatigue weighed every syllable. I bring no sermon, Jaime said. He set stool. Sat. Only talk. No goblet. She taunted. You once fetched me honeyed wine. Wine has been scarce since you threatened to drown the city in it. The retort came without heat. Silence lapsed. From above drifted faint clamor of mason blocks, as if city rebuilt itself on Cersei's grave already. She curled arms around knees. They will hang me publicly. They will not. He forced steady tone. Daenerys intends a trial. The lords decide. Lords, she spat. Men who licked my boot last year will call me monster to save their skins. What of you, brother? Will you speak in my defense? I will speak truth, he answered. Truth, she echoed, soft. Was any between us? She leaned forward. When did you begin loving her more? This isn't about love. Everything is. Eyes that once blazed, now smoldered in ashes. I birthed a realm of corpses for love. What will you birth? Peace, perhaps. He gestured to Cradle. A safer kingdom for him. Her gaze softened as she followed his. He'll know his mother from stories of wickedness. Or of warning, Jaime said. Let your last act be courage, not defiance. Confess. Show regret. Cersei laughed. Brittle glass. Regret is a chain heavier than these. She rattled manacles. But I'll give you one truth. She leaned close, whispering, Qyburn's doves scatter still. Some nests lie beyond your queen's reach. She drew back, satisfied with flicker of alarm across his face. You think the realm a garden you can weed and prune. But seeds blow on cold winds. He stood, stool scraping. Enough. He lifted Cradle gently. The babe stirred, hiccuped. Cersei's lips parted, then pressed flat. He'll stay with me, she said. Not tonight. Jaime shook head. The night before trial he stays in Maester Orwyle's care. No risk. Cersei's nails dug into straw. You fear I'll kill my own child. I fear you'll die trying to save him from a verdict you cannot escape. Her laugh this time was soft. Almost sweet. I escaped death thrice over. Fourth time is only numbers. Jaime cradled the infant's warmth, turned. At door, he paused. Confess. Spare him your shadow. She closed eyes. I would have burned the world for us. Strange you'd save it by burning me. He left, heart leaden. Night before trial, the Red Keep's great yard filled with braziers, their sparks reflecting off armor newly forged. Brienne sought Jaime on battlements where gargoyles gazed over city. She wore simple leather, Oathkeeper, slung across back. I dreamed of Maidenpool, she said by way of greeting. You and I in mud and rain. You called me wench, and I despised you. Seems forever. Jaime's shoulders eased. Forever's not long. She leaned on Merlon, night wind lifting blonde hair. Tomorrow may break you. Yes. His hand, flesh one, brushed hers on stone. Will you stand beside? If you'd ask. He did with silence. She answered with silent nod, sliding her fingers through his. Moon dipped. Dawn crept lavender. Bells tolled third hour. Thousands gathered in the dragon pit, its vast broken dome cleared of rubble for event. Marble platforms formed semicircle tribunal. At center stood a black stone block draped in scarlet cloth, the accused's dais. Balconies above bristled with archers, necessary precaution for small folk pressed thick below. The odor of tallow, sweat, and fresh fear simmered like kettle. Daenerys sat center throne, a volcanic glass carved in dragon wings. To her right Sansa Stark. To left the High Septon in seven-colored crystal crown. Flanking stepped ranks. Davos, Samwell, Ilaria, Jon Royce, Grey Worm. Rhaegal circled high overhead, occasional roar rippling tension. Jaime entered from tunnel, escorting Cersei. She wore plain gray gown, no jewels. Shackles on wrists clinked faint. She kept gaze forward. Crowd hissed and jeered, rotten fruit sailed, unsullied shields blocked. Jaime guided her onto dais, then stepped aside near Brienne and Varys. Her chains were removed, generous act of courtesy. At a nod, High Septon intoned charges. Regicide by wildfire, treason, kinslaying, conspiracy with foreign powers, murder of Robert's bastards, butchery of septs, and unnumbered smallfolk deaths. As each echoed, murmurs rose. Queen Cersei of House Lannister, Daenerys said, voice firm yet not cruel. How do you answer? Cersei lifted chin. There's but one realm, and I defended it from usurpers and traitors. Crimes you cry were acts of sovereignty. Boos cascaded. High Septon raised hands. Hush regained. Sansa stood. Witnesses may speak. She gestured. First Ilaria approached, recounting Myrcella's murder by poison. Her own sin, yet wrought in revenge for Cersei's death debt. She wept through confession. Crowd listened, enraptured, seeing cycle of vengeance laid bare. Next Brienne. She described Renly's death, the shadow with Stannis' face, and Cersei's later orders to silence inquiry. Her voice rang clear. She named names. She ended. Honorable vows turned to tools of terror. Then Samuel spoke of wildfire caches beneath King's Landing, and the children consumed. Tears stained his cheeks. Each witness painted portrait of fear. Finally, Jaime stepped forward, crimson cloak stark against ruined walls. Murmurs quieted. I come not to accuse, but to reveal. He told Vantage only he possessed. The night Cersei threatened to torch King's Landing anew, infant in arms, wild with loss. He recounted Black Cell conversation. She would rather ashes than surrender. He ended with a plea. If we answer hate with hate, her lesson endures. Let this trial break the wheel, not spin it once more. Some hissed, some nodded. Brienne's eyes shone. Daenerys rose. The realm has heard. Let the lords deliberate. She gestured to circle behind dais. 31 lords and ladies selected from every region. They withdrew into Dragon Pit's nave, flanked by septons. Hours dragged. Sun baked stone. Tempers simmered. Cersei sat unmoving, baby back in arms. Court had allowed nurse deliver him for suckling. She hummed, lullaby faint. Jaime waited with Brienne under torn wing of stone dragon. If they condemn, he whispered, let me speak final words. She squeezed his flesh hand. You'll endure. Lords returned at sundown, faces grave. Lord Hightower stepped forth. In justice of the Seven, by witness of realm, we find Cersei of House Lannister guilty. Murmur like thunder. Sentence. Life in confinement at the citadel of Old Town, stripped of titles. Her children under wardship of the crown. No blood will answer blood. Gasps. Dedham. Mercy, not death. Daenerys exhaled. Jaime's knees softened. Sansa's expression unreadable. Cersei's smile flickered. Relief or scorn. Crowd roared. Some for mercy, some for ropes. Unsullied guided her away. She passed Jaime. Their gazes locked. She mouthed something. Lion? But whether curse or farewell, he never knew. 2 months later, Winter's claws relaxed enough for first crocus to pierce mud near Rosby. In the capital, gardens were bloomed. Daenerys walked palace corridor lined with colored glass. Jaime matched stride. Letters from the sisters, she said. Pirates gone, thanks to your sellsword river fleet. I'll expect my coin, he joked. She rolled eyes. They entered nursery, converted from old council archive. Sunlight striped floor. Nurse rocked Prince Joffrey. A new name awaited. Daenerys suggested Tywin. Jaime balked. They compromised on Julian. Infant cooed. Brienne knelt, wagging finger. Child gripped it, gurgling. Sansa visited often, bringing northern weirwood carving shaped as direwolf and dragon entwined. She and Daenerys still debated autonomy, but friendly now. Elaria forged pact. Dorne's water gardens opened to crown trade. Vale sent grain convoys free of levy. Grey Worms Unsullied began training City Watch, now called the Scales, symbolizing balance. On full moon, Jaime and Brienne walked Blackwater shore where wildfire once boiled. Lanterns bobbed on barges, honoring dead. Brienne skimmed stones. Jaime watched ripples swallow. Will you return to Casterly Rock? She asked. He shook head. Rock is mausoleum. My place is here. Unless, he hesitated. She raised brow. Unless you tire of city stink. Brienne tossed stone high. Splash answered. She hooked cloak around his shoulders against chill. Where you stand, I stand. In Palace Septi. A quiet ceremony days later joined them. No pomp. Daenerys, Davos, and a scattering of street urchins who idolized their Lady Knight served as witnesses. Tyrion, absent still. Months passed. Grain flowed. Snow retreated north. Atop Maegor's holdfast, Jaime practiced sword strokes daily, with left hand guiding new lighter blade forged by Gendry Baratheon beside Dragonglass guard. Gold hand counterweighted. Surprisingly apt. Brienne sparred opposite, clanging Oathkeeper cheerfully. Their laughter echoed off red tiles. One dawn, a raven with purple seal arrived. Tyrion's hand. Jaime cracked wax. The letters smelled of sea salt and oranges. Brother. I stood at the world's edge. It did not end, merely curved. Much like life, it seems. I find myself longing for home, not of gold, but of hearts I trust still beat. Tell the Dragon Queen her imp returns with tales that may bore, but wines that want. And tell Brienne, thank you, for teaching you how to swing more than swords. P.S. If the Septon still preaches humility, you may want reserve him for our reunion. Dashed. Jaime tucked letter into cloak. He found Daenerys on terrace overlooking city, now speckled with market awnings and new tiled roofs glinting like dragon scales. He handed her note. She read, "Smile. Seems the hand of the king is now hand of the queen again." "At your pleasure," Jaime replied. "And his brother hand-in-law," she teased. He laughed. "Two hands for one realm." She sobered, gaze sweeping horizon where fields spread green. "We built peace on bones. We must keep it alive." "We will," he vowed, "with mercy that hurts and heals." Below, bells tolled midday not for war but for festival, a harvest fair marking first surplus in half a decade. Children raced through streets chasing ribbons, vendors shouted, Rhaegal winged above but little fear stirred. In courtyard, Brienne led recruits in mock melee. Her armor gleamed, lion etched beside bear. Jaime descended steps to join her, gold hand catching sunlight like shard of dawn. He thought of Cersei 1,000 leagues south, enclosed in citadel spires. Perhaps learning truths penned by novices. That power without mercy is rot. That love without sacrifice is poison. That even a kingslayer can plant seeds. He reached Brienne. She tossed him wooden sword. They squared in ring. First clash sang bright. Cheers rose. Overhead, banners of dragon, dire wolf, rose, sun and spear, and lion interlaced, fluttered in warm breeze. A tapestry still mending, threads of mercy and truth weaving new design. Jaime met Brienne's strike, laughed as foot slipped, and caught balance with golden fingers strong. Somewhere distant, thunder of war might yet brew. Seeds on cold winds Cersei foretold. But for this heartbeat, realm breathed alive. And the man once defined by a single broken oath stood reborn. Hand of gold, heart forged by fire, ready to guard that fragile peace with steel tempered by compassion. The gulls of Blackwater wheeled overhead, their cries bright above the city's hum. Jaime raised practice blade in salute to Brienne, to Daenerys watching from parapet, to Sansa nodding from gallery, to children whose laughter now dared to echo off walls, no longer painted with fear. Each face bore hope, each heart carried scars. Together they faced a dawn, unstained by wildfire, where dragons shadowed, but did not scorch, and where a kingslayer's story, at last, was more than the sum of his sins.